You've taken to this post WWE life on social media like a fish to water, my friend.
Well, old man, they're never too late to learn new tricks, you know.
I think there are some young guys that could probably learn from what you're doing right now. You've done a wonderful.
That honestly, that's been one of my missions. I want to show these young guys if they put in a little effort, it ain't over with, until you let it be over with. I'm 74 years old and I can still get over, to hell with them.
Do you mind if I just roll into this, Gerald? I'm recording.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well,
Go
right
ahead.
now, of course, the voice you're hearing in the room, my guest is WWE Hall of Famer, former WWE Hardcore and 24/7 champion, also the host of the new adfreeshows.com Mailbag with Gerald Brisco. Gerald, thank you. Thank you for taking time.
Well, it's awesome. I'm learning new experiences every day. Like we said before, you're never too old to learn new tricks. I'm 74 years old. And social media is just as foreign to me as probably a drop kick is to a lot of people that's never tuned into professional wrestling or sports entertainment or whatever the hell it's called nowadays. So I've taken the time and, my sons and a lot of help from various people. My good friend Taylor Williamson, that's really helped me coordinate a lot of things, and has the patience to teach an old man new tricks. And when you got an open mind, the world's the limit.
Yeah, man. You say it's interesting. It's got like PCO reminds me a lot of that too. He came out not long ago and like kind of reset the trend. He took over the viral video stuff. I'm sure you guys are like two cats of the same cloth here, something like that.
Well, I appreciate the comparison. That's pretty good comparison there.
Did you and are you surprised PCO was able to kind of pick up and reinvent himself like that in Ring of Honor?
No, I'm old school. I think you get over one time in your life. There's no reason why you can't get over again or just stay over. I mean, you just got to put the same effort in it, and you got to have a little passion about it. It just can't be, hey, you're the guy. I'm gonna work Twitter, or what is the word now? Troll Twitter. I'm gonna be a troll on Twitter. You just can't get up one day. You got to put a little research into it. You got to humble yourself and ask questions. And David Silva, a fantastic guy that we know very well, has helped. When I saw that damn Bruce Pritchard doing it, I said, if that guy could do it, I could do it. Pritchard, a Texan, can't do anything. That damn Texan, Layfield and Pritchard, if they can get on this damn social media and make it work, and I'm not looking to be no one of those guys, or what do they call them, influencers or whatever it is. I'm just looking to be me, and I feel like I got some nice stories and that I can tell, after 50 years on the road. If I don't, my brain's not working right. And
Yeah.
And it also, I do a lot of reading, a lot of research, and you keep your mind active, and you won't come down with a lot of those old timer diseases. And that's what I try to do. I try to just stay positive, stay focused on what I want to do, and you know what? I explore and I experience new things.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been somebody. Obviously, a lot of people are maybe remember you from the Attitude Era. You and Pat Patterson were hysterical as the Stooges, and we can talk about that here in a little bit. But I've seen you in QT Marshall's documentary. I've seen what it's like when you run camps and things like that. You've been a guy who's been a big influencer behind the scenes, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here. When you found out that you were free and clear of WWE for the first time in a long time, were you excited about the chance to get out there and build your own brand and let your voice be heard? Was this something that motivated you?
What an awesome question. Yes, and an answer to it is quick, but I never give a quick answer to anything.
Sure.
But we're so restricted, and rightfully so. It's a corporation that spent billions and billions of dollars building that brand, and to have the restrictions that they have. If you're getting paid by that brand, I have no problem with the restrictions. I really don't. I mean, they pay you a healthy amount of money to be loyal to that particular brand, and somebody go moonlighting out and being maverick and just start stuff on their own. I honestly don't think, if I was Vince and I had a multi-billion-dollar corporation, I'd probably put my foot down too. Hey guys, okay, here's the deal. I'm paying you X amount of dollars to be loyal to me. that means I retain the right to your image. When you sign that contract, you know what you're signing. I mean, if you don't, you haven't got legal help, and you haven't, you're not smart enough to get a contract like that, in my opinion. But if you take the time and have attorneys and proper people, legal people research it, and they say, okay, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do, and they're paying you good money to do what you can do and stay away from what you can. If you don't do it, you shouldn't have that contract. And so yeah, I agree with the deals, but I also, when I got free, I kind of took a deep breath. And people say, weren't you pissed off? Or I mean, people were trying to get dirt from me. 36 years with one company. I mean, I got dirt, but do I choose to go there? No, because I just think back of the wonderful friendships I made. I mean, a guy that they honored last night, the last one. I mean, I was there day one for Undertaker, and I felt bad I couldn't be there last night. But with this damn virus, we can't do a lot of things that we want to do. But I just, respect the holy cow out of him. So I just got wonderful memories of guys like Mark and like Bruce and then Vince and Shane and Stephanie and Hunter and even guys that I didn't get along with, warrior type guys that had those attitudes and those egos that, and Lugers and all those guys like that. I still got along with them. And I respect them in their own little frame, but that's it. They're just in a little eggshell, and there's so much more out there. So when Vince and I talked, and I agreed, it was time to draw to an end, and I haven't quit totally. I'm still out there scouting. Guys will tell you, I got college kids all over the place.
Yeah.
That I talk to, and I'm gonna give them direction. I mean that's something the eagerness in me to help these young men and women in college and independent wrestling to get to another level. That's what's inside of me. That's what my mom taught me all my life, to give back. And this is a great opportunity. So when it come to the release, I started sitting there, I've taken good care of my fun, so I wasn't in a panic. What am I going to do? I'm going to be kicked out of my house or this stuff. I wasn't panicking or anything like that. And I'm fortunate, but I was taught that also by a bunch of fantastic old timers in this business, kid. It's not what you make, it's what you save. And so I took that to heart, and I lived with that credo my entire career. So. And I started looking out there, and I started looking at, things different guys were doing. Nothing in the wrestling business is original, and nothing on social media is original unless you were the very first one, So you can look out there, and I always say, the guy is looking for different moves and everything. Still that move, but refine it and change it a little bit where it's your move, and use it so much where people become familiar with it. Then that move becomes your move. It's a move that you borrowed from somebody. We all borrow moves. I mean, figure 4 day leg lock.
Yeah.
Ric Flair. I was over in Charlotte before Ric Flair. I left Charlotte. What did Ric Flair do? Because it was over, he did my figure 4. Why did I do the figure 4? Because Buddy Rogers did the figure 4.
Sure. So
we all borrow stuff. So I saw this wide open world out there, and to a 74-year-old man, it's intimidating as hell. But if I have friends like you and friends like Taylor and my sons that are active on social media and other guys, Bruce's and all those guys, I give them a call. Hey, how do I do this? How do I get started? And ease in. And then Taylor came up with, well, let's just do these big announcements. And before that, it was Brisco Road Stories that Taylor was helping me with. It. I did a series about 8 to 10 of those things, told old road stories, and those got a little bit too personal, I think. And I was asked to kind of pull them back, so we come up with something else. But this ad-free thing that I'm doing now for Conrad Thompson and the boys over there. it's so much fun because I get to interact not one-on-one, but through questions and answer questions that the fans send in, and I try to give them the best, most honest answer. And you know what? It might not be the answer they're looking for, and it might not be the accurate answer, but it's the answer that I saw in my mind because I was there and I was asked a question. I experienced it, so I'm giving it to you in my verbiage, not in somebody else's.
Yeah, and fans. I watched the debut episode. Fans really interested. A lot of fans are in your relationship with Vince McMahon. Everyone's relationship with Vince McMahon. I mean, you noted there that when it came time for you to part ways for WWE, so Vince called you personally because that's not the experience of a lot of people that work at WWE where you get that personal call from Vince. What did it mean for you to have him reach out directly to you to kind of explain the situation, what was going on?
Well, I'm always honest. That's what I was taught to be. I'd talk to my wife, and she can tell you, I, 36 years with the company, up and down with the company. I mean, we weren't always the $1 billion company. I mean, in the mid '90s, right after I started with it, we started having, talent issues. That's when Turner started printing all that money, and the guys started jumping down south to us there. So we were kind of hurting, and we all took pay cuts and pay bumps and all that stuff until business came back, and Vince was very generous and gave us back, what we had lost there. But the whole thing of it is, I've known Vince since 1974 when I went up and I did some shots from Mid Atlantic Wrestling. I had a good relationship with Vince Senior. And when back in those days, when you're a territory, New York was the place to be because all the magazines, Apter and all the magazines there. Apter made a few shots out here and there, but the promoters knew if you wanted that mainstream press, you had to send you guys to Madison Square Garden. So I was fortunate enough to be in that position where the promoters, Eddie Graham and Jim Crockett Sr. and Jim Jr. would send me to New York to do a shot with somebody. So all the mainstream magazines would get in, and I met Vince. That's when I actually met Vince in 72 or 73, somewhere along those lines, in the early 70s. And
yeah,
so we weren't best of friends, but there were times where him and his dad would be in Florida for a holiday, and we'd be running a show in Miami or Lauderdale or Hollywood, Florida, and they would drop in. So I always had some type of relationship with Vince, and then I started to work for him. And when my brother and I decided to make the deal, started to work for him, and I started as a local promoter. I mean, just a local promoter that I was basically doing Tampa and Florida and Florida. And then my town started doing well. And then all of a sudden he's calling me, hey, would you like to do Georgia? Hey, we can't get buildings in Carolina. You think you could help us? So I'd make a trip to Carolina and talk to the building manager because of my relationship with the Crockett's from the old days. I was always looking at that business side because that's where I knew I eventually wanted to end up, was on the business side of this sport. And Lucky Star, that's how I ended up. Lucky Star done a lot of hard work. That's how I ended up on that side. So I from the local promotion, he brought me up, and I've done a plethora of jobs for Vince, and a lot of them. I never really even had an official position with Vince. And one of the reasons why I'd probably been involved in more major decisions in that company than just about anybody from the very beginning. And I've never been an officer or never had an official title in that company, but I was involved in that. And I don't know, maybe, because Vince liked me, I doubt it, because I had something to offer is more likely. So I had a great relationship with Vince, have a great relationship with Vince. And so when he called me, everybody, what was you pissed off? How can you be pissed off when you spend 36 years with somebody like that and help them grow a company from the ground level into the empire that it's grown into? Did I have a little anger? Yeah, I was a little angered, but most of all, when I get angry, I just think of the relationships and the accomplishments that was done during that 36 years, and that just blows my mind. And so I walk out of there with a clear, clean conscience that I gave him everything I had, and a clear, clean conscience that he reimbursed me for all the effort that I had.
You know, it's crazy because, like, you know, watching the Undertaker's final farewell last night, you know, Vince came out, you know, and brought the Undertaker out, and it made me think about how many people are left around Vince as when he kind of came in. You know, I hear you talk about your long relationship with him. I hear others talk about their long relationships with him, and it's kind of a new guard is seemingly coming up right now. How engaged do you feel Vince is right now? Do you see Vince there for another, you know, 20 years running the company as it is? Like, what's your take on where Vince's headspace is at right now running the company?
Well, I was real fortunate. We did a taping here right after I got let go. Matter of fact, I got some acreage on a lake here in Keystone, Florida, and so Bruce knew about it. Bruce called me, hey, would you allow us to come in and do some filming? We want to do some filming with Bray Wyatt, and I said I got the perfect spot for it. So they did, and I was really shocked because Vince never shows up to these remote tapings or anything. And we got a phone call in the middle of the afternoon that Vince was coming by he was going to drive over from Orlando, have a car drive, bring him over from Orlando, him and Bruce to come over to say hello to me. Well, it did shock me Bruce was coming over because Bruce is my brother, but it shocked me that Vince would take the time out of his schedule after flying all the way down from Connecticut, going through protocols and everything that you got to go through. Would get in the car and drive another hour and a half, come over, and just to visit with me for an hour and a half, So we got to talk a little bit, and so it's still to get a relationship with Vince takes some effort on your part, because Vince, contrary to what you see on TV, is not one of those guys that's really in your face all the time. He's media shy, he's fan shy, and he's group shy. He's not good in group conversations, but if you got something that you want to talk to Vince about business wise, you can go to him, and his door is, you can ask a lot of people, his door is always open.
Sure.
I hate it when people walk out of there with bad perceptions of Vince. And sometimes I think it's unfair and sometimes I think it's right, but there's more guys that don't feel about how I feel about him than that feel about him like I do. So he's a strange cat, but you know what? I think if I was to come down sick, very few people know this story, but I had 4 strokes, and
yeah.
And the last one that I had, they was getting ready to release me from the hospital here in Tampa. And Vince called me to see how I was doing. And I guess I sounded really down because I just had a doctor's meeting 5 minutes before Vince called. And they told me they didn't know what was wrong with me. They said your weight's right, your blood pressure's right, your cholesterol's right, all your vitals are perfect, and we can't figure out why you're having this. But we're going to let you go. And number one, it scared the hell out of me. Getting released from the hospital after a 4th stroke, and they don't know what's causing the damn things. And so,
yeah.
Vince called to see how, and he said, man, he said, you don't sound like you're excited about going home. And I told him the story, and he said, well, can I help? And I said, of course you can help. And about 15 minutes later, Stephanie McMahon calls me and tells me, hey, they have a specialist up in Pittsburgh, cardiology and neurology specialist, one of the top guys in the world. And they made me an appointment to go see him. Now, when do I want to go? I said, well, when can he fit me in? And he said, well, he'd like to see you tomorrow, she said. And I said, well, okay. They had a plane ready and flew me to damn Pittsburgh and picked me up. And then there was another guy in the van that picked me up. And he said, how long did it take you to get in there? And I said, 24 hours. He said, I've waited 6 months to see this doctor,
Wow.
So he was good, and he went in there, and they examined me, and he wouldn't let me leave the examining room. He said, if I let you leave, he said, you got a couple of aneurysms that's getting ready to pop. He said, I can let you walk out of this building. You drop dead in our parking lot and nobody would know. He said, they checked me right in the ICU unit. And the next morning, 5:30 in the morning, performed the procedures on me. And I think that saved my life. So I owe Vince more than financial things. I owe him and his family things for setting me up with the medical care that I needed.
Wow. Well, just to kind of circle back, and that's an incredible story. That's awesome. But do you foresee Vince running this thing long, or do you see him turning this over while he's alive to Hunter and Stephanie and not?
I'm sorry, I'm old and I got away from
No,
your
no,
question.
no. I'm sitting here, I'm like, wow, that's
That's
incredible
how I do,
story.
and that's what people are in for on these ad-free shows. They're going to ask me a question, and they're going to get more than just to answer that question. They're going to get some
Say.
ingredients in those things. So get on that attitude free show. And sometimes I run out of time because that damn Conrad Thompson won't give me enough time to answer all of my wonderful fans' questions. But back to your question about do I do and see what are Vince. Vince is one of the most healthiest guys I've ever been around in my life. He takes care of his body better than anybody. He eats the right things. He drinks the right things, and he can't go without working out. I mean, he would leave TV in the middle of the day when Vince is working out. We knew at a certain time of the day Vince would go work out, and we had to keep on with doing what we were doing there.
Yeah.
As long as Vince stays healthy, and I know this is going to be a disappointment to some of the fans out there, as long as Vince McMahon stays healthy, he's able to make the trip physically. And even though you got your own jet, your own car, limo, I'm here to tell you, I've been in that jet and those limos. He don't stop working. I mean, sometimes we'll fly across the country and we're talking business. They'll land from New York into LA and we hadn't finished talking about business. Vince will not open that door, allow that door to be open until we finish our business that we're talking about. So I feel he is taking more input from other sources. But do I think as long as his mind is mentally fit and his body is mentally fit, that he'll relinquish 100%? I don't see it in my lifetime, and I don't see it in his lifetime. I think it's going to be one of those things where there maybe and I hope it never happens, but where he's not mentally stable or not physically healthy enough to make these trips.
Yeah.
That damn guy got a hip replacement on a Friday, and on a Monday night, he was taking a damn bump on the ramp at Monday Night Raw. And this guy is a freak.
That's crazy. The last thing I want to ask you about Vince is you brought up something in the debut episode of your Mailbag with Gerald Brisco on adfreeshows.com. I don't hear many, if any, stories about Vince McMahon drinking. And you brought up how Vince and you like tequila, he likes scotch, he likes wine, I guess. You teased a story about the time that you and Shane and Bruce Pritchard drank all the wine on an airplane, but you didn't, before Vince got on the plane, but you didn't tell the story. And you guys acknowledged it was a story worth telling. I didn't know, I don't want to steal content from your platform, but I didn't know if you'd mind telling that story here for everybody.
Oh, it was an exciting night. I mean, it was a celebration. We'd gone to Pensacola, Florida, or Panama City, Florida, where the hell it was, somewhere up in the Panhandle of Florida. The last taping of WCW where we're taking over, and I feel so rewarded because it wasn't WCW, but I was there when Georgia Championship Wrestling when they took over that. So it kind of come full circle. Then when WCW went out of business, I was a part of that takeover too. So it come full circle for me. But we were there. We were getting ready to do the deal with Shane, where Shane bought WCW. We're cutting in. I was running Gorilla, and they needed somebody there to make sure the timing of Shane wasn't going to get shorted on the time somehow mysteriously. Those guys were completely professionals on a transition, and I don't think anything would happen. But I was pleasant to be there. So, of course, when the show was over, it had been a highly, extremely uncomfortable day, and a day where the stress level was just sky high. I mean, there were guys there crying they've lost their job. They're a guy, they're begging, that you'd never get, and you don't like to see stuff like that, especially when not too long ago, you were in those guys' exact same position. So you had the emotion for them, but also on that same deal, the tremendous accomplishment that we just pulled off. And so we got on the plane and we were rushed because we were in Panhandle, Florida. We had to go, I believe it was to Cleveland to pick up Vince and the rest of the crew that was doing Raw, and then take the plane then and go over to Chicago. Well, we knew Vince had kept this wine that is a special, what a vintage wine that he loved, So we got on the plane. We didn't have time to stop and get our own refreshments because we knew the plane had them, but we didn't know we were going to be drinking this much. So Shane and Bruce and myself, we can consume some adult beverages. So anyway, we got on the plane. We consumed our lot of deals, and all of a sudden we're thirsty. And we're still about an hour from Cleveland. And the Shane said, "Hey, the old man's got his wine here." And so we asked the flight attendant, if she, "Oh, no, that's Mr. McMahon's wine." I get Shane said, "Well, I'm Mr. McMahon. I'll take responsibility." So pop, pop, pop. There comes the corks out. So we're all drinking, toasting each other, having a hell of a time. Now it's coming time to land. We asked for another drink. She said, "Sorry, the wine's gone." And all of a sudden, "All the old man's wine's gone too?" And she said, "Yes, sir, Shane. All the old man's wine, Mr. McMahon's wine is gone too." And now we know we were in trouble because he's gonna get on a plane, he's all happy and celebrating, and there ain't nothing to celebrate with. That was the longest 30-minute flight from Cleveland to Chicago that I've ever experienced, and the quietest. And of course, Bruce, I don't know if you've ever been around Bruce and Shane when they had a few, but they're very kind of noisy. And I get a little boisterous too. And so we're wrestling in the plane. Well, I think they're going to kick us off in midair after a while. Quit doing that. So then we get in the limos, all the wine gone. And at least they had some wine in the limos for Vince. And we get in the limo, and Bruce decides he wants to attack me. So Bruce is now on top of him. Shane gets in it. The three of us and Vince. "All right, you guys, quit being kids back there and be serious for a change. Let's talk about what happened. So we got to sober up. And the next day, Bruce gets up. "Where's my phone?" He's lost his phone in the wrestling match. So of course he's blaming me for stealing his phone. I said, "Bruce, you attacked me. I didn't attack you." So. But what a night that was. It was a night I'll never forget. And it was a celebration, and rightfully so. But we got grief all day long and all night long from drinking the Boston wine.
Oh, my God. And so, wait, you were in Florida then for the last Nitro? Where Shane,
Yes, I was.
Wow.
It was three of us. It was Bruce, Pritchard, myself, and Shane, and a guy at a TV truck.
I can't even imagine. And by the way, that was a hysterical story. But I back to why you decided to drink so much. I can't even imagine being the WWE guy in the WCW locker room, like you described. Dozens, 100 people, all confused about their future. I'm sure every single member of that locker room at some point came up to you and made their case about why they should get hired.
Everybody made a plug during that day, and it was intense, to say the least. And like I said, one of the most stressful duties that I ever performed in W, even more so than Montreal. And I won't get in that because we don't have enough time, and Conrad won't allow me enough time on these mailbag shows to do it. So
yeah. Another time. Wow. All right. Two things while I got you here, Gerald. I've taken you a little over time. Can you give me 10 minutes? Is that fine?
That's fine.
All right. Wonderful. Last two things. First of all, what do you think Undertaker's final farewell? How do you think it came across?
I'm a big football fan, so I usually watch football. But last night with Mark, I mean, there was no way in hell I was going to miss that. I was emotional. I wouldn't be telling you the truth to say if my eyes didn't get a little misty last night on some of the deals. Paul Bearer, I mean, a really dear friend of mine. I mean, I still got a message on my phone. From Paul when he was doing an autograph show in Atlanta, and we were kind of ribbing. He asked me if I was going to come up there and keep the bar open. I said no, and I said but I'll find you. I know what you check in. He used to do the whole thing in these hotels. Check in as George Jones because George Jones was his main man singer, and so I know you checked in. And he said, "Well, tonight I'm going to use alias." I said, "What, Merle Haggard? How did you know?" And I've kept that message all these years, from Paul Bearer. And Paul Bearer is the one that actually set up my first Twitter account at WrestleMania in Miami in 2012. Wow. I didn't know what is this Twitter stuff, Paul? And Paul had a Twitter account. I think he had like 30 followers at the time. Or I said, would you just help me set it up? Because I don't know how to do that stuff. Wow. And so he sat there. He sent my first tweet out. The first tweet on my Twitter feed is sent out by Paul Bearer.
Wow. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was you infamously recruited Brock Lesnar for WWE. I didn't know if you want to tell everybody like what it was like to recruit that guy and like what you saw in Brock before you brought him to WWE.
Well, number one, it didn't take a damn nuclear scientist to figure out this guy had what it takes to be a WWE star. Even in college, especially, I mean, if you got 3 words out of Brock Lesnar, you were getting a great conversation out of Brock Lesnar. And I was personal friends. I was teammate, lifelong friend. I was teammates at Oklahoma State University in the same recruiting class as his college coach. Excuse me, I don't have COVID. I just got sinuses and I have to cough. But anyway,
don't worry.
I saw Brock when he was a junior in college, and he lost in the national championship, but he was still a beast, and he shouldn't have lost, but he did. We all do. So I got a mental picture of him there, what could transpire, but I knew he was a junior, and there was no way in hell I was going to call my one of my best friends from college and say, "Hey, I want your guy. I know he's a junior." But I called Jay and I said, "Jay, I know Brock's a junior." And I said, "But I want him for WWE." And he said, "I'll tell you what I'll do." He said, "If you give me your word," he got 1 more year here. "If you give me your word that you won't distract Brock, because Brock," he said, he told me, Jay Robinson told me this himself, "Brock is easily distracted. Because he wants to do so many things, and as we found out in later life, jump from UFC to WWE and back and forth like that."
Yeah.
He said, "But it just get him focused. And I give you my word, next year when he finishes the national championship, within a week after he wins that national title, I'll have him in my office and I'll put you online with him, and I'll talk to him beforehand, and I'll make sure he's nailed down for you before you even call." And he said, "I might even have a bonus for you." And he did have a bonus. That bonus turned out to be Sheldon Benjamin. So I got 2 on one phone call. I had 2 of the greatest athletes to pass through WWE through my friend Jay Robinson. I got Sheldon Benjamin and Brock Lesnar. But it didn't take a brain surgeon to know that this guy had what it took, and sure enough, he did.
Yeah, and so with Brock, knowing him the way you do, my last question is, a lot of speculation around Brock. I don't believe he's signed with WWE right now. I think he's a free agent. I mean, would you count it out of the question that Brock Lesnar maybe goes somewhere else, like an AEW or something like that?
You never count anything out in this business, and you never say, you're not going to do it, or, he won't do it. If the money is right, and I believe this with all my soul, that Brock Lesnar would not do it unless he was offered one of those sums. I mean, as Ted DiBiase says, everybody has their damn price, so. If they come up and they offered him this ungodly amount, I don't know. I know Brock never has to work another day in his life, and his grandchildren, their grandchildren will never have to work another day of life. You talk about frugal. This guy is one of the most frugal guys there is on the face of the earth. So did he save his money? Yes, every damn penny of it. So, yeah. But I think it would have to be in extreme circumstances. And I think he would pick up the phone and call Vince and tell Vince the amount of money that he got offered, and see if Vince was going to do anything, And honestly, I think Vince would do something.
Yeah, sure, fair enough. And what about you? Are you happy just being an agent right now? I mean, are you allowed to pitch talent both directions or any direction right now, or do you see yourself signing with another wrestling company in the future?
It would have to be the same situation. It would have to be one of those dire needs that, like I said, I listen to the old timers, it's not what you make, it's what you save. And I listen to them, and I would, during my course of my career, I wasn't one of those guys that just, I'm a wrestler. That's all I can do. I went to college for a reason. I wanted to get smart. I wanted to learn how to make some money. So during my career, not only did I have the wrestling business, but I invested in two promotions: Georgia Championship Wrestling, I owned a stock and then Florida Championship Wrestling. So I divested myself. I owned real estate. I owned, of course, Brisco Brothers Body Shop, and real estate around. At one time I had real estate in 17 different states. So
wow,
I wasn't one that just sat on my butt and just did wrestling. I was always networking, trying to do other things. So to answer your question, it would take something that I don't think myself, that I have the value of what I would want to somebody else. Maybe I do. I don't know. And I got a lot of value, I think. I'm putting myself over, but who else puts you over, Hey. So I have a lot to offer, but it would take them an awful lot to make me want to. Because 36 years, brother, I don't care. I didn't get a gold watch like Dusty Rhodes. It cut a hard time. They give you, after 20 years, they give you a gold watch and tell you you're being replaced by a computer. Hell, I didn't even get my gold watch. So that's hard time, baby.
Sure. Well, Gerald, I want to thank you so much for the time, man. Really happy to see you out and running and just having fun, man. I mean, you're a player again. Like, you're all over my Twitter feed right now. So
well, I appreciate that. Like I said, I've never been one to just sit around and feel sorry for myself. That don't get you anywhere. If you're not moving out of college, Coach Brisco, you can't go anywhere unless you move your feet.
Yeah, brother.
All right. So I move my feet, baby.
Well, Gerald, hard plug here. Do you want to tell everybody where they can go find you, follow you, support the show, all those things like that?
Yeah, thank you for giving me that opportunity. I guess number one, I should plug our Mailbag Monday on Conrad Thompson's empire, and so I'm excuse me, I'm pushing for more time. I think Taylor and I deserve more time to tell our stories to the complete start to ending. I don't want no 3-hour show. Hell, I get pissed off at Raw for having a 3-hour show. Why would I have a 3-hour show? So I don't want that, but I want more of these little mailbags. So that's my plug there. They can catch me on Conrad Thompson's Mailbag Money. You can catch me on Cameo. I love doing Cameo because they give me at least a time to address one question, and thoroughly. So the interaction between the fan and the talent on there, if the talent is treating you right, they'll give you a great interaction on Cameo. Of course, Pro Wrestling Tees, that's in one of them. This is my old buddy Merle Haggard, God rest his soul. But I'm there, the FG Brisco on Twitter, the FG Brisco on Instagram, Gerald Brisco on Facebook. I don't know what I missed, but I'm on all that stuff. If I'm not on it, you tell me about it, and I'll find a way to get on it there. But I come and enjoy the old man. I mean, I got tons of stories to share with you on Monday Mailbag. I'll answer your questions the best of my ability. And I know there's going to be some of those damn sheet guys out there saying, well, that ain't right. Well, how do they know? Were they there? As Bruce Pritchard was there. I was there. Sometimes you think Bruce Pritchard was the only one there. I'll tell you a little quick story of Bruce Pritchard. You know who Ed Strangler Lewis is, right?
I am familiar with Ed Strangler Lewis. Yeah.
He had the headlock, right?
Correct. Yes.
For his, it's just old boring headlock. But Bruce, back in those days, he come up with the hey Ed, if you put one of those mannequin squeeze heads under your arm and you take it on TV and you squeeze it, they're going to know how strong you are. So that's what Ed Strangler Lewis used to do, and that was because of Bruce Pritchard. This was back in the 30s, 1930s, that Bruce started. Bruce wasn't even alive then, but he telepathically did that. The Apple Daddy Hodge used to squeeze. Bruce showed him how to do that. So Bruce has been everywhere. So Bruce is one of my best friends, as you can tell, and I love burying him. And then he gets so mad at me when I'm a network executive now. You can't say those stories about it. Now you're open game, you're a network, you're open game. I can say anything I want to. And I will say, So if you got any dirt you want answered on Bruce Pritchard, Monday mailbag on Conrad Thompson. I don't have any dirt on Conrad yet, but I'll get some. I guarantee you.